So given the issues of the housing crisis, the government in Scotland have decided a couple of policies to try and alleviate the issues that renters are facing at the moment. The first one is they've decided to implement a rent freeze, which of course has landlords going absolutely mad. There are pros and cons to a rent freeze, so, you know, I can understand why people are frustrated, but ultimately landlords are the ones putting up prices and the ones rent seeking and the ones scalping people for over their desperate need to not be homeless, right? So I have no sympathy with the landlords themselves. The second policy that they are doing is implementing a licensing system for short-term lets, which is an incredibly based idea because, you know, you can give out licenses very easily to bread and breakfasts in the country, HMO hotel type things, whatever it might be, because hotels already have their own licensing structures. You don't need to do anything on top of that. But what it will do is it will really nip the bud Airbnb, which ruins cities. There's ruined cities across the country, across the world. You look at, for example, Prague. Right, the city of Prague, there's just like no place for people to live in the city so they can go work in the city and contribute to the economy in the city. No, it's just short-term lets. It's just Airbnb everywhere, and it ruins cities. It's awful. I hate them so much. Just use housing that's built for housing to put people to live in. Stop buying it for short-term profit for Airbnb and tourists. They can fuck off to hotels as far as I'm concerned. I do not care that you want to be a miniature short-term let landlord. So let's have a look at this news article that short-term let campaigners staging a Holyrood protest over a licensing scheme. The Scottish Government has been accused of demonising the operators of short-term letted accommodation, with campaigners against new regulations for the sector claiming the changes also signal tourists are not welcome. Yes, they can be welcome, just in hotels like normal tourists, and not inside what is supposed to be residential accommodation, but is being used for short-term rentier profit by the most egregious people on the planet. Actually, the worst landlords as well, because at least landlords who do residential landlordism, they may be toxic rentier garbage pieces of, but at least they allow people to be able to have long-term housing, which is of course a basic human right and a need. That's a service that at least they provide, whereas the people who do short-term letting landlords are taking away the overall supply of good housing for people to rent if they want a good place to live, because it's much more profitable to usurp hotels on Airbnb. Tourists can go to hotels. Stop reducing the supply of available rental housing for normal people because of your desire to make a quick buck on short-term profit. A new licensing regime for short-term Airbnb-style lets is due to come into force in Scotland on 1st of October, with property owners having to apply for a licence by then if they wish to continue trading. Ministers have said the scheme, which has already been delayed by 6 months, will ensure short-term let properties are regulated in the same way as other types of accommodation, such as hotels and caravan parks. Amazing that never was before now. The hotel trade will be breathing a sigh of relief. They've been hammered by COVID, and the Airbnb thing has been fucking them over for years anyway. Everybody wins apart from the greediest landlords. Yep, exactly 100%. Because hotel buildings were built for short-term lets. They are licensed already as short-term lets, and they fulfill that role very, very well, and without taking up loads of city space. In fact, they're really space efficient because they usually build upwards and the rooms are small because people go in and out of them all the time. Taking explicitly residential property, which is supposed to be for people living in rather than staying in for a short period of time, with a much larger footprint overall for land use, and using that for short-term lets is just so barbarically inefficient that, quite frankly, I think this legislation doesn't go far enough in demonising these people. A survey by the Associations of Scotland Self-Caterers has previously found 64% of operators are considering leaving the sector because of the change. Good. Go. Shoo. We don't want you. You're not welcome. Fuck off. That's what the policy was there to do. They've fucking well achieved it, and I'm glad that they have. With the Scottish Government facing increasing calls to pause any regulations, the Save Self-Catering in Scotland group is to demonstrate outside Holyrood on the day MSPs return from their summer recess. Speaking ahead of the protest, self-catering host and campaigner Louise Dickens claimed the ministers had been unclear why the change was being made, with improving health and safety and tackling the housing shortage amongst the reasons given. Exactly, yeah, they want you to leave the sector because you're causing a housing shortage for regular residential people. You are literally patient zero for the housing crisis in cities because of your desire for short-term profit at the expense of overall utility, whilst also killing the hotel sector as well. Good, leave the sector. I want you gone. Fuck off. But she added, two things are clear. The Scottish Government is demonising law-abiding people who let their properties for self-catering or welcome guests into a spare bedroom, while at the same time signalling to tourists that they are not welcome. It's destroying livelihoods, or making the mockery of Scotland and its ability to form coherent and lawful legislation. It appears that this legislation was designed to close 30-party flats in Edinburgh, but the reality is it risks forcing closure of 2/3 of the sector across Scotland. Good! I've been run my business for 2 decades. I've never hosted a party flat. I've never had a complaint. I've contributed to my community and more. Why am I being punished by the government's ability to deal with a very small number of rogue operators? I mean, you're all rogue operators because none of you provide a good service. None of you provide overall societal utility. Now, they've included a bunch of quotes from the protesters, which you've got some nice pictures of here. These are the protesters, the very middle-class protesters there, protesting the government fearlessly getting in the way of their rentier income. This sign here says, "Are you a pogrom parliament?" I shit you not, that's what these people believe. Here is a video of a woman trying to claim that the plight of self-catering short-term landlords in the inner city area is somehow equivalent to Nazi pogroms of Jewish people.
The word pogrom means to destroy, to wreak havoc upon, and to violently demolish. Now, it's oftentimes associated with the Nazis and their treatment of the Jews, but when you look at the actual definition of the word, that is what they are doing to this sector.
Yeah, exactly. This is literally what it is, right? Having to apply for a license for a short-term let is basically the same as the systemic murder of Jewish people in Nazi Germany. Basically the same thing. If you're going to make some kind of mass murder allegory with the plight of short-term let landlords in Scotland, at least compare yourself to somebody who actually killed landlords, right? At least compare yourself to Chairman Mao. Based in Chairman Mao pilled, then, you know, maybe this would be a reasonable comparison. But no, we've gone full Godwin's law on this one.
They're the parliament of pogroms. That's how I feel.
Save self-catering! Save self-catering! Save self-catering!
Like the most middle-class protest you could ever hope to see. Save our livelihoods where we make huge amounts of rentier income off of our big property portfolio. Even a small property portfolio, it's still rentier income, it's still shit.
I started operating just over 10 years ago, and I'm a single parent with 3 boys. I have worked very, very hard I downsized.
I've worked very, very hard to own a thing and then make renter income off the thing that I own.
My own house in order to pay for a short-term let in Edinburgh. And I probably will get my certificate of lawfulness because I tick all the boxes. But I'm here for everybody that isn't in my position because this is unfair. These are not...
Yeah, exactly. You're 100% correct, Eric the Red. Pancaking on in chat. Work harder. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Pay for the licence. Do better. It's not the government's job to cater to your every single whim.
Not second properties that sit empty for most of the year. These are businesses. My house in particular was a product of the right to buy from Margaret Thatcher, which decimated our social housing stock.
You're the problem. You're literally the problem. You're buying ex-council housing and taking it not just out of council sector, but out of the residential sector completely by turning it into an STL. You are literally the whole problem here.
And every single council in the whole of the UK promised that they would rebuild on the back of the money that they made on that. They did not do that. It is not my problem. It is not anyone else's problem here to solve their housing problem. That is their problem.
You literally contributed to the problem by taking an ex-council flat and turning it into your little fucking vehicle for rentier income. The worst, like the bottom of the barrel, the lowest kind of landlord. The one who's using it for tourism income and taking inventory away from the overall residential inventory of the city. Bought a council house to rent it out for profit, and not even to actual residents who would live there like in a council, just to tourists. I am so glad this woman is mad. I hope she gets even madder. If you're watching, woman, I'm on screen right now, I'm glad this happened to you. I'm glad that you're mad. It's good that you're mad. You are part of the problem.
Elected them not to come down with pogroms on people like us.
The option would be available for you to sell.
Literally, still doing the comparison. Still like, yeah, this is exactly like when there was systemic murder of ethnic groups in Europe.
That property, what would you say to that?
Well, this is my pension. Selling it is not a pension. And I will not sell. Supposing...
Well, yeah, you can sell it and then put that money into a pension, like to an endowment pension. Put it in the fucking stock market. Somewhere where you can gamble with numbers all that you want for future investment income. I couldn't give a shit. But once you start actually impacting how people live inside communities because you prioritise your short-term financial gains over the health of the community, that's where I stopped caring about what you think.
I wasn't going to get my certificate of lawfulness or my licence. I will not sell. And do you know what I'll do? I'll rent it out to students and they won't even get council tax. I feel so strongly about it. And that's what I'll be encouraging everyone to do.
Well, that is very funny. I love landlord cope. It gives me so much life I feast upon it. I'm like the character from Legacy of Kain. Just feed it. I feed upon the misery. It's so nourishing. The cope is so nourishing. Incredible scenes. That's how entitled landlords are. They're so entitled. They think they should be guaranteed income forever off of an investment where the value of which may or may not go up, right? The whole point of investments is that they are a risk, and the supposed capitalist justification for the rented income that you get off increasing asset prices is that the risk is what you take on, that it could go up or down, and you get benefits if they do go up based upon the risk that you've taken. I would want to alleviate that. I'm a socialist. I don't believe in capital investment as a necessary part of the economy. But even if you're a capitalist, you believe that the risk should be whether it goes up or down. And she's like, I'm having to take on risk and my investment portfolio might go down. Yeah, tough shit. That's how investments work. Policy can change. Who gives a shit? I don't. If you enjoyed this video, please do consider liking and subscribing. It does help out the channel and the algorithm. And if you click the bell notification icon, it will let you know when I go live and when I upload videos. If you'd like to follow me on social media, my handle is @NoJusticeMTG, and that is Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, and YouTube. If you want to support my channel in a more financial manner, you can do so by becoming a member for just 99p, by super chatting, or by supporting me on Patreon, with the link is in the description of this video, and hopefully I'll catch you on the next segment.